India and Israel as national identities have more than a few commonalities. Both came into being around the same time.
Years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes.
If India became independent on 15th of August 1947, Israel was formed on 14th of May 1948. Both countries went through painful birth pangs and soon after birth had to fight wars to maintain their territorial integrity. The Indian and Israeli prime ministers of the moment, too, have a few things in common. They are both the first prime ministers of their country to be born after their countries came into being. Narendra Modi is 1950 born and Benjamin Netanyahu was born in 1949. So they are about the same age, just like their countries are. Yet, both the land of Israel and that of Bharat, that is India, stretch back in civilization to the very beginnings of recorded history. Both these ancient lands spawned religions that spread across continents, and they bred hate that consumed their societies. Both flourished and suffered the fate of religious and ethnic diversity, and both have managed to rise above their neighbors to be considered modern Asian powerhouses. India and Israel have a lot in common and a lot to share. And it was the lot of the two post-independence heads of government to shake the hand of alliance. On an Indian Prime Minister's maiden visit to what the Jews believed to be the Promised Land, Narendra Modi signalled a new course for India's Middle East policy, to send the message that India-Israel relationship was now out in the open. No longer would India shun Israel to appease the Arab nation. No longer would Delhi hyphenate Israel with Palestine. No longer would an Indian Prime Minister think twice before landing in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. Nine months after India became independent, the State of Israel came into being on the 14th of May 1948. The two countries since then have shared a close relationship that never had a public manifestation to the extent that Prime Minister Modi's visit triggered this last week. It was a display of unguarded warmth from the moment Prime Minister Modi stepped off Air India One. Narendra Modi reciprocated with a series of hugs to his Israeli counterpart, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Welcome, my friend. It's wonderful.
The bromance wiped out all doubts the direction of India's West Asia policy from here onwards. 22 hours after the first Indian Prime Minister landed in the Promised Land, the first real dividend of the heightened Indo-Israel friendship emerged. A subtle yet significant joint message to the world's terrormongers. In a strong statement, India and Israel announced a new initiative to jointly combat terrorism. This would involve a crackdown on terror mentors and terror sanctuaries.
Yad Vashem tells us that those who believe in humanity and civilized values must come together and defeat it at all costs. As such, we must resolutely oppose the evils of terrorism, radicalism, and violence that plague our time.
We also face common challenges, and the first of it is to defeat the forces of terror that rampage through the world and threaten both our countries.
Prime Minister Modi, while citing the threat of terrorism, made a sentimental reference to Benjamin Netanyahu's older brother, who died in the famous extraction of hijacked Israeli hostages from the Entebbe airport in Idi Amin's Uganda.
Exactly 41 years since Operation Entebbe, the day when your Prime Minister and my friend Bibi lost his elder brother Yoni while saving the lives of so many Israel hostages. Your heroes are an inspiration for the younger generations.
After the ceremonial welcome, Modi and Netanyahu proceeded to a flower farm. A special variety of chrysanthemums was rechristened after Narendra Modi. In Jerusalem, the duo visited Yad Vashem, a Holocaust memorial where Prime Minister Modi paid homage to victims of Nazi genocide.
Prime Ministers of Israel and India to take their seats on the podium.
The remaining 2 days of the maiden visit of an Indian Prime Minister to the Holy Land involved major defense and technological deals.
Friends, India and Israel live in complex geographies. We are aware of strategic threats to regional peace and stability. India has suffered first-hand the violence and hatred spread by terror. So as Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu and I agreed to do much more together to protect our strategic interests.
A total of 7 agreements were signed after 2 hours of one-to-one and delegation-level meets. These range from deals for water conservation to the cleaning of the Ganga to 3 space agreements.
Wherever the Prime Minister goes, there are 2 things that always take precedence over anything else. One, talk of business, serious business needed to be done, and second, of course, reaching out to his people. So, on the final leg of his visit, he met Indian students in Israel, but before that, there was a talk, a CEO's roundtable, where he got together with the money bags.
We're alive. We're here on the beach. 2 friends, India, Israel, and we went on a jeep.
On the last day of his visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu spent the afternoon at the Olga beach. But the day had started with the Indian Prime Minister leaving Jerusalem for Haifa. Prime Minister Modi visited the Haifa cemetery to pay homage to Indian soldiers who were killed during the World War I Battle of Haifa in 1918. Bonding by the beach. After all, it shouldn't be all work and no play. Serious business done, it was time to take a few pictures by the sea. At the end of the beach drive, the Indian Prime Minister was shown how Israel, despite being a dry zone country, has used technology to become a water surplus one. On his way out of Israel, Prime Minister Modi used up an extra few minutes to meet some Indian students who were there in Israel. And when it was time to take off, there were hugs, handshakes and cheers for the first Indian Prime Minister to have visited the Jewish nation. There was a time, not that many years ago, when it would have been impossible to see an Indian Prime Minister breaking bread with the Israeli leadership. India's commitment to the cause of Palestine seemed unalterable. The bear hug was reserved for Palestine's Yasser Arafat and not for Israel's David Ben-Gurion. The differences between India and Israel had more to do with ideology.
On one hand, there is a political kind of, shall we say, correspondence, meaning that India and Israel are dealing with this challenge. And it's very interesting at the political level, Israel is one country that unequivocally supports India on terror, particularly the Islamic Jihad. And it has also identified Pakistan and groups supported by Pakistan as a perennial challenge to the whole world.
India, itself a victim of imperialism, had opposed Palestine's partition in 1947. When finally, at the end of the British Mandate, the State of Israel was created, the Nehru government recognized it, but didn't establish full diplomatic ties. India's firm membership and leadership of the non-aligned movement meant a natural official closeness to the cause of Palestine. Israel was also naturally in the US camp, in a bipolar world dictated over by two competing superpowers, USA and USSR. The Six-Day War in 1967 saw Israel seize control of the Gaza Strip, the West Bank and Eastern Jerusalem, creating Palestinian refugees by their thousands. The gulf between India and Israel naturally widened.
This visit is of exceptional importance. The preparation that has gone in for this, making this visit a success, is huge. Israel is also going to give to us the technology that America has denied us. America has given us drones which are not combat drones, they are surveillance drones. India has demonstrated the capabilities through Mangalyaan and Chandrayaan and through Agni missiles, etc. Israel has got certain technologies that we are lacking. So here again it is going to be a win-win situation for both the countries.
Not just Palestine, India had other reasons to keep Israel at a distance. Trade links with Arab nations and the presence of hundreds of thousands of Indians employed in the Middle East after the oil boom made it difficult for India to openly align with Israel. India crossed the Rubicon in 1992 when Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao established full diplomatic ties with Israel. Since then, many Indian delegations have visited Israel, including the President. But Narendra Modi became the first Prime Minister to do so. And visiting Tel Aviv in the 50th anniversary of the Six-Day War, won so convincingly by Israel against Arab nations, has sent out a firm signal that there has now been a paradigm shift in India's diplomatic relationship with West Asia.
Oh, what a great order.
Great day, a great day, historic day. Welcome, my friends.
It was a watershed moment in New Delhi-Jerusalem ties, marking a clear change in India's policy on West Asia. Between Palestinian sentiments and Israel's strategic assistance, it has always been a tightrope walk for New Delhi when it came to the Middle East.
My friend Prime Minister Narendra Modi, welcome to Israel. Aapka suhaagat hai, mere dost. Prime Minister, we've been waiting for you a long time.
And not only was this the first time a Prime Minister of India was in Israel, but this was also a time when for the first time an Indian leader very obviously ignored Palestine.
First visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Israel is naturally a landmark, is historic in that sense. The path had been laid down, of course, going back to the Congress government of 25 years ago when we upgraded the relationships to ambassadorial levels. But the important thing is to ensure that the Arab countries and the Palestinians in particular are aware that this does not involve any dilution of our commitment to a fair deal for the Palestinians. And we have been committed to a peaceful solution there throughout.
Prime Minister has no time to go and meet the Palestinians. Why? I mean, this has been a continuous policy of various governments which are in power. That is why I say that the connection over here, though we have a 50 billion trade with Israel excluding arms, and Israel has been, in United Nations Human Rights Council have shown that Israel is involved in criminal actions, but we still abstain from voting against Israel.
The Modi administration, however, had been careful. President of the Palestinian Authority was approached about a month and a half before the Israel visit.
We hope to see the realization of a sovereign, independent, united and viable Palestine coexisting peacefully with Israel.
During his first 3 years in office, Prime Minister Modi has also wooed the other Arab nations. From being the first Indian Prime Minister in 34 years to visit the UAE, to exhorting international action against terrorism, countering the Pakistan-China nexus, and increasing India's influence in the Middle East. Officially and outwardly, India may have shunned Israel for 50 years, but at the covert level and in secrecy, the two countries had often worked together. There are stories about Israel's offer to bomb Pakistan's nuclear installations in Kahuta if given refueling facilities in India. Also about training LTTE cadre on Indian soil. But for all purposes, India sided with the Arab and Muslim nations in world affairs. With India strengthening its ties with Israel, strategic interests have replaced covert alliance, with both sides promising everlasting friendship.
We as practitioners and we are who are going to implement the ambassador in Israel and myself and our teams are very eager to the day after, as we call it, the day after the visit is our first reigniting of the enthusiasm we all have to do more things for India, for Israel, and also for the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
There is the Ambassador of Israel to India speaking exclusively to India today, and a very, very strong statement that has been made by both the countries, and only underlining it that beginning now on there is absolutely no justification, no fig leaf to hide behind as far as the issue of terrorism is concerned. Good terrorism and bad terrorism, that differentiation and the hypocrisy of it will be called out internationally by India and Israel together.
11-year-old Moshe Holzberg loves India, where 9 years ago he lost both his parents in a terror attack. The reason Moshe himself survived was because of his Indian nanny. The image of a 2-year-old Moshe clutching on to Sandra was the iconic image of the human tragedy that unfolded at Nariman House during the 26/11 terror attacks in Mumbai. Moshe's parents, Gavriel Holzberg, then rabbi of Chabad House, and his wife Rivka were found dead along with 4 other hostages when Narendra house was cleared of terrorists. Moshe's mother, Rivka, was then 5 months pregnant.
Out to out, a lot of good feelings, and you feel you walk with you stay with a friend like a family, and you understand the whole family, and of course you want to continue the whole legacy for his children to be continue again.
I tell him the same what I said yesterday. I'm very excited, and I tell him don't forget the house for Moshe boy in the Nariman house. And I tell him also, Moshe boy, I want for him, you have an open door every time when you want to go to Mumbai, you can go, come and go. And Modi said, okay, Moshe, when you want, you can come, and when you come to visit Mumbai, please come to visit me also in the office.
The orphan Moshe and his nanny had left India for Israel soon after the terror attack. Moshe's nanny and savior, Sandra Samuels, was at that time granted an honorary citizenship by Israel. Today, she works at a rehabilitation center for the disabled.
My full mind is on Moshe boy. He becomes big, he'll grow up, and he'll become a rabbi. He'll see the world, and I hope he has a good life and become a good man when he grows up. Moshe, yes, he can go. He will go. When he becomes big, he will go. But I don't know. He has to drag me, then I will go.
Nariman House was one of the 5 places targeted by terrorists on 26th of November 2008. The building was badly destroyed in the terror attack. But the small Jewish community in the city restored the house, and it is back to serving as the nerve center of their religion here. Young Moshe was excited to meet Prime Minister Modi. He had lived through the horror, but there is no bitterness in his voice as he says that he wants to visit the place he once called home.
I want to go back to India.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
For my command? Yeah,
for my Nariman house.
To the Nariman house.
To be the rabbi.
To be the rabbi.
Mm-hmm. Like my parents, my father.
Like my parents, my father.